Welcome, everybody. Before we get going on what I have planned for today, I'd like to do a quick check-in. Mark and I just got off a one-on-one meeting, and hello, Molly. There you are.
Hi,
Yep,
Molly.
good. All right,
Hi, howdy.
we have a quorum, as they say. Um, so this week I've been working into. Have you noticed that the lessons, right, are going in kind of a spiral, right? Starts diamond, then star ruby, star sapphire, diamond, star ruby, star sapphire.
Yeah.
We do this 4 times. Okay, and I'll explain why in a little bit. It has to do with this, but the what's trying to get through me over the past week is to do with the resistance aspect of Star Sapphire. And one of the natures of Star Sapphire, if you haven't encountered it yet, is obstacles. And I'd like to lead into this by giving a real world analogy. And by the way, you'll read all this when the time comes. Some of you it'll be next week, right?
Yeah.
But a real world analogy of part of the nature of Star Sapphire, and it has to do with the scientific principle of inertia. Inertia is a principle where it's basically, I think, most easily stated that an object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion. It doesn't like change. Okay, and you all know the sensation of inertia. If you've ever gotten into a vehicle and hit the accelerator really fast, you know how your body goes back and you kind of feel this pressure, right? Or if you've been in one of those, I don't know what they're called, but they, at an amusement park, they strap you in, or you're standing up, right? And then they start spinning you really fast. Yeah, and you turn on your side and you never fall out, right? That sort of thing. It has to do with acceleration and deceleration in its most basic form, okay, in a physics standpoint. Now, imagine what the world would be like without it, without inertia. You jump into your car, you touch the gas, don't even slam it on, just touch the gas, and you're instantly moving at the speed of light into whatever obstacle happens to be in your path, destroying yourself, destroying the vehicle, destroying the object. Right? Okay, you understand? So it's from a cosmic standpoint, the idea of a star sapphire, which is resistance to change, is very important. It's obstacles. It's the obstacles that you encounter. Yeah. From a psychological standpoint, if the universe did not have star sapphire as a primary principle, then whatever you thought, whatever you decided to do, would suddenly just be done. Right? You all want to be kings? Congratulations, you're all kings, right? You all want to be whatever the case is. You have a passing whim and suddenly it's just done. It's happened. And that sounds probably, kind of good in some respects. It sure would be nice, right? But what happens when someone gets angry with you? Yeah, all of a sudden you're dead. Unless, of course, you catch it in time and you have life eternal, you see. It creates a world of chaos. Okay, so this resistance to change in the universe, this star sapphire principle, is very, very, very important. And especially so when it comes to setting an aim that's in line with your true will. And I said this earlier in my earlier conversation, but if you have not encountered resistance within yourself in this work, in other words, doubts, okay, when doubts begin to arise, mistrust can arise, even just a why bother, why am I doing this type of attitude can come up from time to time. And if you haven't encountered it, you will, right? As long as you're actually doing the work, you absolutely will. It's part of a star sapphire aspect of, and it's not just in this endeavor, it's in any endeavor. Doesn't matter what you are, right? If you're a famous soccer player, professional soccer player, whatever the case is, yeah, you're going to have Star Sapphire come to you at some point in time and ask you, why is it worth it? Why are we doing this? We'd be doing so many other things, yeah? And that's inside. From an outside perspective, the same thing also happens. You begin to set this intention, and if your intention is quite grand, then you wouldn't believe what comes to stop you, okay? You will find family sometimes coming to stop you, right? From living through your intention. Friends, religious personalities, society in general. I'll get into how to deal with that at some other point in time. Okay, but I just want you all to understand how valuable it really is. Yeah, Mark, do you have that saying handy about the egg that you read to me earlier?
It's upstairs. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Right. So I wanted to check with you all today because this Star Sapphire process that I've been in for about a week, and usually it takes me like 3 or 4 days to get something out on paper. This is exceptionally challenging to get this one out because we're talking about the very nature of resistance. And so every time I set pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, it takes an immense amount of work to just get unstuck and just let it out, right? And it's just it's a battle. Yeah, it's because we're talking about the thing itself, so it makes sense to me. But I just wanted to check in with everyone and ask how your week has been, because in some way or another, you're all on this thread. What I'm going through, what I'm processing, is going to like a spider on a web. Ding. It's going to vibrate in your life as well. So, have you had this? Have you had almost an increase of this kind of opposition resistance to like having those days where nothing goes right? Even in my job, for crying out loud, it was just like that. Yeah, this week, like I was working on something and I had to set something up in a lab, and everything I touched was broken or break shortly thereafter. It's just amazing. But anyway, how's it been? Have you noticed this?
Come on, missus. Put your hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had a challenging week.
Yeah.
Challenging day as well.
Yeah. Irritation, frustration.
Confusion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right. And I see a lot of head nodding kind of going on, right?
Yeah.
It's, probably more of it around than usual.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's kind of the intro in here. Mark, please read that. And this sums up the effort involved in Star Sapphire. And then we will move on to whatever is needed at the moment. I just wanted to bring this in. Okay. Please go, Mark.
Okay. Remember that great things happen from the inside. If an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. If an egg is broken by an inside force, then life begins. Great things happen from the inside.
Yeah.
I'll read that again, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Remember that great things happen from the inside. If an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. If an egg is broken by an inside force, then life begins. Great things happen from the inside. I'll send it on to everyone.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Just drop it in chat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that beautifully sums up the idea behind Star Sapphire. and star ruby, just to kind of get you on the frequency and flavor of these things, right? Star ruby, in this example, is the chick trying to get out. Star sapphire is the egg trying to keep it in. Yeah. And depending on where you are in these Gemrod lessons, you might have more of a reference for this, about this idea of, something in creation trying to contract and something in creation trying to expand. And I said in one of the lessons that we're not in a position of equilibrium. Okay, the expansion is happening just a little faster, but each time the expansion happens, creation tries to keep up, or I should say, Star Sapphire tries to keep up with it and pull it in and contain it. Okay. Excuse me. My thought must have been carried in my cough because it's gone now. Let it out. Anyway, you understand. You get the point. You understand where I'm going with this. It's this kind of push-pull thing. Why do you have the opportunity to win in a situation like this? It's because we are still embryos inside of the womb of creation. When you encounter difficulty, there's always a delayed reaction. I think this is another one of the laws of thermodynamics. I think I brought one up earlier, but it's action, reaction, action, reaction. Okay. We live in a primarily star ruby, by just a little bit, star ruby universe, wrapped in a star sapphire containment. So when you encounter something, you push a little bit and then star sapphire responds. You push a little bit more, star sapphire responds like this. This is how it works. Okay. Jeffrey, did you have a question? Yeah.
Not a question. Is a word that's pushing in that I wonder if it helped the dialogue. And the word is membrane.
Yeah.
So certainly when I think of the egg as a membrane, but also as earlier when you were asking about how the week is gone, and I feel like as I'm reading the Atrium, I come up against a membrane.
Yeah.
And then I've just learned for myself, a methodology is press against the membrane, but don't try to break through the membrane.
Yeah. Right.
And each time just press, get a little bit further.
Yeah. Yeah. Like imagine the insanity of having a magic lamp where you rub it and a genie pops out and gives you, 3 wishes, right? Because without that struggle, we live in a dispersed universe. You see, if it wasn't for the nature of Star Sapphire, this containing, compressing, allowing something to build within it, if it wasn't for that in the universe, then the eternal expansion of Star Ruby would be spread so thin it could never accomplish anything. Yeah. If I found a magic lantern, I would leave it alone. I like the struggle. All right. Okay, let's shift gears for a minute. Okay. Let's check in and see how folks are doing. Each of you are kind of relatively in different spots in the journey. So I just want to open it up as kind of an open forum and find out if you have questions, if something's sparking you. Let's let you drive for a moment, okay?
Got any? Why are you looking at me?
He gets us off.
We're all looking at
Start talking, mate.
Sam, go first. I'm not gonna eat and drive.
Okay. Right. What's running through you, mate?
At the moment, dinner.
Okay. Right.
That's what I'm trying to not think about dinner, but because we just had crumpets.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That's all you. Okay.
I love this man's honesty. I really do.
That's okay.
I've had a couple dealings with Sam here, and yeah, really strikes me about him. Just
Thanks.
tell it. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things from last week's meetings where it was brought up about recurrence, reincarnation, and then rebirth somewhere else. And I appreciate this is a big subject. Yeah. So, not thinking that it's, no, I won't limit it that way. Yeah, that's a lot of what is coming on in me. Not
Okay.
just from the point of view of wanting to understand it from a brain thing, but to understand the reason why. Why have we got these three things? It's a conversation that we had between the three of us. And I said, why is it that there are those three things? And what we came to as a first principle is that is what creation God needs. Not going any deeper than that into the understanding of the mechanics, the dynamics involved, but just as a starter point to think of. The reason why that is there is because that is what is needed. Yeah. And then it's been cooking a bit. And yeah, I think it's fair to say that the thought of reincarnation was bad enough, thinking, wanting to get off somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it was brought, when the thing about recurrence was brought into play, I'll be frank, there was a sense of, oh my God, yeah, having to go through all this again and then thinking, is there a way of getting out of a recurrent state, or is it an eternal thing? So there's a whole massive thing, but it did cause a bit of a wobble, when you think, particularly when, as we've started tonight, about difficulties and challenges. And then to think, oh God, I'm going to have this argument over and over and over again. When we get to this day of existence, I'm gonna have to put up with this coming from me, coming from Clarity. Sam shaking his head, going, "Oh, will you two sort it out?" and stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
And it's a daunting prospect. That is a possibility.
Sure.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, earlier on in the week, I was saying, well, if that is the case, then it's a good idea to put some good experiences in, rather than what we now understand as these resistance things, as you spoke about.
Right.
Because prior to that, it was just somebody, how can I put it, not seeing what I was trying to get to, and to explain, and just the prospect of that going
The
happening
best,
again and again and again. Yeah.
the best way out of it
Yeah.
is really to make yourself uncomfortable, because it's already an uncomfortable proposition that you're perhaps just not awakened to. A very uncomfortable proposition that you're perhaps not awakened to if you're just doing this again and again and again. Right?
Oh God.
There comes a point in time when you should strive to live your life in the most unique way you can think of. Don't do things like anyone else does them, or I should say like everyone else does them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, get up in the morning and do a handstand and walk yourself into the bathroom, right? If you're able. Yeah. Live unusually, I think is probably the quickest and easiest way out of it. And the reason why is because the universe doesn't know what to do with you at that point in time. That's really what it comes down to, right? The other way, the long way, the hard way around it is really to contemplate every event in your life, like I've suggested. contemplate all of these things and see where the threads are, see what certain things have in common, and then go learn your lesson. Yeah. Get it, understand it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, psychologists know this, right? People that have many relationships in their life, they're what's it called? It's like it's something along the lines of trauma repetition. Yeah, we have this aspect in ourselves. If you ever go through a particular trauma in your life where you feel like, you know, things just broke apart, they didn't make sense, it didn't work out, like you hold this pain with you about a certain, you know, person you were with or circumstance or whatever the case is, your spirit is going to keep chucking those at you over and over and over again. Okay, because you need to learn that lesson, right? Once you know, like if you've ever been in a toxic relationship with someone, once you awaken to that and you go, I don't ever need to be with this person again, right? And just let it go. And I'm talking about like in a repetition way, right? In a recurrence way. You won't encounter them in your next life. Yeah, even if it's a repetition, you'll be on a slightly different track. Actually, that would be a reincarnation, more likely. But do you see? There's a couple ways around it, aren't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. But literally, God just doesn't know what to do with you. You know, if you start acting abnormal, but intentionally so. Okay, we're not talking about mental disorders. What's the expression? It takes a village to raise an idiot. That's not what we're not what we're going after.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, Mark, I can run a bit more into that. Did that help? Why don't you
Yeah, I mean, that's got
push another button in me?
to work on. Yeah.
I'll push another.
Yeah, rather than focusing on it too much, because this was an opener to get from everybody. Perhaps it's time to open it up again, and then with what you said already, it is enough to have a bit of time with it during the week. We got a phrase at home, cooking time. It came from when the children were struggling with homework, particularly science stuff, and they go, I can't get this right. And yeah, do you remember this?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
If we had particularly nasty piece of homework that we couldn't get our heads around, what we do is we read through it and then just put it to the back of our mind and just cook on it, so to speak,
Just park it for a day or two.
And most of the time that worked. When I came back to it a day or two later, it made more sense.
Yeah.
And if it didn't, then I still had time to go and talk to teachers.
There was also that by not trying to pressure yourself to understand it, what you would have is, even when you weren't doing that homework 3 days later, you would.
Well, it really has to do with the speech.
Totally. Yeah. Just to put this in, that what would happen is that when you're doing something totally unrelated, it would just click.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what we call cooking time at home. Yeah.
Well,
where don't try to break the back of it.
Truth be told, it's not really you in that situation. What it is it's you've made demand of something in the astral light, and by tuning fork, it came and attended you. You know, even if it is a math problem, they are somewhat entitized, right? We've talked about thought forms before. When you have those eureka moments, about something that you were struggling with, and then just let go, Sachin, it's an aspect of that astral part of you, right? That we were talking about, going out, grabbing a hold of it, and dragging it back to you. Whether you know it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, that's the mechanics of it. Yeah, it goes out and gets it. Intelligence isn't something people learn. It's something they connect to. You never learn anything, really. You don't become more intelligent by studying. You become more intelligent by what you connect to.
Yeah.
It's really true. It really is.
Yeah.
Schools have it all wrong, kind of. Not all wrong, because you need the circuitry in yourself to be able to connect to it. But they kind of stop there, don't they?
Yeah.
Right.
Here's
Sachin,
that.
something.
Yeah. I actually have a couple things. First,
Great.
is probably something more interesting to this group, and interesting is the word. One of the guys that I really follow on the investment side, he keeps saying, lead a more interesting life.
Ah,
Like, lead a more interesting life. What does that really mean? And if you want to live longer, if you want to live healthier, if you want to live smarter, if you want to be richer, then lead a more interesting life.
mhm.
Have a set of different interests, have a different set of passions, pursuits, because that's what's going to help you grow.
Mhm.
And when you were saying earlier, randomly do something different, put some intention in it. Like, you randomly do something different, but don't do what Piers was
Do it
saying.
consciously.
Don't
Yeah.
walk on your feet in your bathroom, but like, actually think about it and do something different, because that's how you're going to grow. Like, that's if you go lead a intentionally interesting life. That's another word I want to add to that. What his
Very
name is,
true.
David Gardner. So that's one. We can talk about that. Or how about that? Like, let's talk about that, and then I'll talk about how things have been with me.
Well, what's to be said? I absolutely agree, and you're right about the conscious aspect of it.
Yeah.
Right. This is where I was saying, don't just be absurd for the sake of absurdity. Right. Do things differently in your life to allow you to experience it. We don't remember anything unless it's unique. We don't. It's just not the way we work. We can force a memory by repetition, but that's a different process. Okay, that's just building neurons of repetition. If you look back at anything in your life, the only reason why you really remember it is because it was different. It was unique. Yeah. And if you did it the same thing over and over and over and over every day, then you would not remember those repetitions necessarily, but you would still remember the first time. Yeah. I noticed something generally, especially with the couples. I think Mark, you're working on breaking that up, but I also understand your reason for where you're sitting. Okay. But have you thought about switching positions here and there? Now I know why you're not, because it has to do with right and left, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But is it now a habit? And by the way, do you understand does everyone know what I'm talking about as far as the energy transfer goes? Right. There's a cooling aspect when your lady is at your right or your gent is at your left versus a heating aspect. Now, sometimes it's actually necessary though. Sometimes things can get too cool. Yeah. And you need to kind of have some bit of friction. If you sit on, I'm not saying change seats right now, but if you sit on the other side of clarity and, y'all get into an argument and we have to mute your, turn you off and mute you.
I mean, she doesn't agree with me. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Then, okay. Yeah. But guess what? You'll remember it.
Yeah.
And you'll remember why. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't be too tied to rules. It's okay to actually experiment, even if if I say, hey, it's probably better off. You're probably better off if your lady's on your right. Even if I say that, I'm not making doctrine here.
Right.
Go out and see for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Get in a drag out fight. It's okay. You'll stay together. No worries. Yes. Okay. So let's stay on that tact of living life unusually. So there's one aspect to it is just you'll have more conscious awareness of the life that you're living.
Yeah.
Whether or not you'll live longer, I don't know, because most of the time people's lifespan is determined by about the first 8 to 10 years of their life, what they did with their centers. Okay. So we're a little at a disadvantage there, generally speaking. But will you learn your lessons? Yeah, because life comes at you faster. You see, if you get in your rut of repetition day after day after day after day, how is, God and creation going to actually give you something new to work against? If you drive the same way to work every day, you're not going to see the scenery on the other way, are you? Right? You won't have that. So there's an aspect to it. Now, Molly,
Yes.
you brought up a couple of I'm gonna let this rest for a minute, okay? I'll come back to it. But Molly, you brought up a couple of interesting questions to me in email subsequent to last week's. Is there anything pressing in you that you would like to work into in that regard? Tough to remember, right? Because I've changed state for you. Yeah.
Oh, I was asking about you.
Oh.
And your process and how. Yeah, I read through the Eminent Way, our Atrium, the introduction to Star Sapphire, Star Ruby, Star and Diamond.
Yeah.
And I kind of processed with it, and I wrote down some sort of salient points. But I mean, it's got a whole life of itself, and I'm wondering. And you also mentioned that you get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and write.
Yeah.
Wow. How long have you been doing this?
Not long. Not long, actually. Well, okay. So I've been getting up at 4 a.m. since my, early military days. That's just kind of what's soaked in. Yeah. But as far as these kinds of works that I'm getting into lately, it hasn't been terribly long. A couple years. Something very strange happened to me at one point in time where, and I think I've talked about this, where I started being communicated with. Yeah. And it surprises me no one's ever asked their names, but two entities in particular, okay, have been addressing me, and they were doing it on a nightly basis. And while I slept, and then over the course of time, I've been able to kind of get a sensation of them. It feels more like an unconscious, if I'm talking to you now and I wish to bring that influence in, then they're there. I can do it. Okay. But that's the short version, the history of it. What led up to that is I basically tossed out everything that was Eamon. Everything that I had been taught that was Eamon, I threw it all out the window, and then picked up one piece at a time and said, is this true or is this not? Yeah. And the reason why I did that is because just like I can't be full if someone else eats my food for me, right? I can't learn this for myself. I can't grow in this for myself if Leo's eating the food for me, right? Or whoever else. So that's kind of the short of it. It's a pretty straightforward reasoning, but what that brought me to was a point of being able to, because I can do things for myself and because I can work into these things for myself, then what attended that in part attends this life now, right? And if you do that, it will attend your life. The biggest problem here, ladies and gentlemen, is that Leo spoon-fed everybody. Leo just archives. Okay, I mean, there's hundreds, thousands of pages, aren't there, right?
Yeah.
Anything you could want to look into, you could probably find an archive on, okay, from a spiritual standpoint. But he never told people how he really got there, right? And I have a problem with that. And if I encounter him one of these days, we'll have a chat about it, because I think it has it's stifled a lot of development that could have been a lot easier for folks. Very much so. All right. The way that he got there I'm not going to go into the specific things that he joined and was a part of when he was younger. Okay. But he was part of something that taught him this stuff. Okay. I'll tell you another thing too, because there's all of these myths floating around that, when Leo showed up on the planet, he already had his connections, and, that was, what I mean? Connections in the unseen worlds, and he never lost those. They get severed when you're born. It's bullshit. Okay. It's not true. I'll tell you this. It's not true. What that is called myth making. All right. Myth making, because he had a purpose, and he did absolutely, in such an amazing way, impact so many people's lives in a very positive way. Okay. Now, we always come down to this idea of it's not what you do, it's the reasons why you do it. Okay. And for some people, they need this mysterious figure that walks on water and, do you understand what I'm saying? Wow, his connections were never severed when he came into the planet. No, it's not really true. It's not true. I'm sorry to say. That's myth making. It helps some people. But do you need it now? You're all adults. You're all been soaking in this for a long, long time, right? And I never did any myth making with Sachin anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? But or Kimberly. So I just want to set the record straight that it was a useful tool. Believe it or not, okay, it doesn't matter to me. But Molly, that's how you get there. You throw it all out, and you take bits of it that inspire you, bits of it that you really want to know about. You dig until you reinvent an Eamon in your own life.
Yeah.
Okay. Till it becomes you, in me, right? It anagrams to mine or in me, for crying out loud. And once that happens, there's this kind of threshold that takes place. You dig long enough, and then all of a sudden other things start coming to join to dig with you, I should say. Okay. It's a funny phenomenon. It's like this. If you get a group, if you go up to a crosswalk, right? And you stop at the crosswalk, and all of a sudden you just start looking out there at nothing. Pretty soon, someone else is going to come along, and start trying to see what it is that you're looking at. And before long, you got a whole group of people all looking up at the sky for no apparent reason other than you did it. Yeah. This is what it's like. Things in the unseen worlds come to dig with you just because you're digging. I don't even know if they know why, but I was never really super duper interested in Egypt, but boy, is it around. Yeah. In fact, yeah. All kinds of things I didn't really have much interest in just started showing up. And this gemrod work, which is part of a larger work known as the Jeweled Way, began. Now, I know that there are people out there who have had experience with gemrod from 30 years ago or however long it was. Yeah. And this is going to eat at them. It's going to rub them the wrong way because of the very thing that I'm talking about. What? There's no diamond gem station, right? That's because I've been taught that there isn't, right? There's no star ruby, star sapphire. What the hell is this guy talking about? Yeah. And fine, okay, but I would really, really challenge that mentality, because what if there is, right? What if all you've done, not you in anyone in particular, okay, but what if all you've done is just eat it and accept it constantly? Yeah. Now, I'll throw another twist into this. Don't believe this either. Okay. Read what I have to say about it. Get the tuning fork for it. But if it isn't for you, okay, maybe by your own digging, you'll come back with a brand new gemrod. You see, but then it's real. Okay. And by the way, the gem stations that Leo laid out are part of this. So I'm not throwing anything out. I'm not saying it's, that doesn't belong or whatever. Everything is accurate. But he did also say that there are all kinds of gem rods, aren't there? Right? Like a gem rod forms up anytime someone becomes passionate about something.
Mm.
Tries to anyway. Yeah. So this is just one of them.
Mm. Mhm.
I would argue it's a bit more of a creational gem rod. These aren't the only names, by the way, that go with this. It's just useful.
Yeah.
Okay. Where does that leave you, Molly?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually, I'm open about what you're doing because, I've kind of years ago when I was doing the gem rod, I really dug in there. I really, and you know, and then I feel free. I feel the freedom in letting it all go.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, there's a freedom there, and just saying, I'm open to seeing something in a new way, in a fresh way, and your perspective, and looking at what is it that what you're saying resonates within me, and yeah, and I have to say that there are aspects and key words that do resonate within me that I'm searching for as well. One of the, I wrote some things down, that are interesting, but also you mentioned ancient in a lot of your conversations, in a lot of your deliveries, the ancient aspect, which I'm very curious about too. I even noticed on your artwork, in this new work that we're doing, there's sort of a picture of, somewhere long ago, which that's interesting as well as that, but also, the visceral connection to these, I'm like you say, visceral is, means, felt and deep conviction, non-intellectual, unreasoning, these are the things that go with visceral. So I'm curious about that aspect of things, and really, living, it's like, is it in me, finding it inside of this being here.
Yeah.
I feel where I stand with a lot of work is the idea that we capture, like a plant captures, like an animal captures, and I think humans capture and synthesize into their being, and it goes into, because it's giving back. We're here on this planet. We're in service. I feel we're in service to the planet and to the sun and to this universe. So what is it that we're capturing, and synthesizing, photosynthesizing, and bringing it into this earth and for its development as well, because I think we're all in this together. So I feel within your work there is that aspect of capturing things for the planet's development, for the sun's development, to the universe, this whole thing. So it's I'm trying to look at it in a way that's functional, and that I'm a part of this function. So,
well, you very much are. Yeah. Especially in that welcome letter that you were referring to, the first thing that you read, right, when you start the Atrium degree. I really try and get across in there that each of you are, you're important to this. It's not me just going blah and giving you a bunch of information. It's important to take these things and actually, see if you can make them yours. How do they apply to you, right? Knowledge will get you nowhere in this universe, or I should say in the ray of creation, right? Other than maybe you will reincarnate as the astral light itself, right? But you're stuck at that point. Okay. So knowledge gets you nowhere. Doing is what gets you somewhere. That's it. That's what counts. Yeah. You have to have some knowing to be able to do, but yeah, that's important. That's why I try and put practical exercises in each of them that are actually doable. Right? You can actually sit down and do the exercise and see what it does for you.
Mm.
Now, it's interesting because we start very, very, very high. You see, I don't know if you can read this or see this, but we've got diamond, star ruby, star sapphire, amethyst, ruby, topaz, emerald, opal, quartz, granite. Granite is your physical life. That's the lowest. Yeah, it is your job, your family, your like everything that you can reach out and touch or put in a wheelbarrow belongs to granite. Okay, your life, where you sit. But we start up here. Do you know why? We start way up here. I mean, like we're not even here, which is the astral life at quartz. Right? We're starting all the way up there next to God and in creation itself. And the reason why is because we're ringing the doorbell. You see, when this gem rod of creation that we live in today was created, it went this direction. God, whatever that is, I should say the divine, okay? Super God, not God, but whatever's behind that, all right? Thought to itself, I need more. I need to grow. I need to grow. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to fracture myself in billions upon trillions upon whatever quadrillions of pieces that can all then go interact with other pieces and get experience, and then crawl way back up here and tell me all about it, right? Just like that exercise of sending out that astral content of you, that's what this is all about.
Mm.
And we go, okay, all the way down to here, and we all bump into each other, and we make love, and we have arguments, and we, get jobs, and we, whatever, all of it. We do life. Yeah, we live life. Because that can't happen here. It has to happen down here. And when you're stuck in this realm, because you haven't bumped into enough things, right, to get that bit. We've talked about true will. Do you know where true will comes from? Let's say that God wants to know a trillion things. Super God wants to know a trillion things. It sends each bit of itself out to go get that one of those trillions of things. Do you see? And so this idea of your true will, which what's above your true will is your true self. Yeah. But this idea of your true will is nothing but this, nothing but you needing to do this. And you'll stay in the game, Mark, you'll stay in the game of repetition for as long as you get one bit. And then you get assigned another bit and you reincarnate. And you get assigned another bit and you reincarnate or repeat. And the process goes on and on and on. It is possible to get off this planet as long as you carry enough content with you to warrant such a thing. And I'll tell you, you will never get off the planet with just knowledge, because that means doing, right? Then you become astral. And then you make this journey here, okay? Opal to emerald to topaz to ruby to amber to star sapphire, then star ruby, then diamond. That's when you make a return back up the ray of creation. So you see, this is creation. This is evolution. This is your path of return. And honestly, don't be so hung up about getting off the planet. It's a really good planet, right? It really is. It really is. And you're absolutely right. You are in service to God and creation. And it is upon each of us to keep this ecology sacred where we can. not just for us, but for the other trillions of bits of God that want to have a go here. You know, when you see a pregnant lady, yes, when you see a pregnant lady that's before that transition from embryo to fetus, and if you can see astrally, you would not believe the amount of entities just elbowing their way, waiting for that opportunity, right, to jump in. I mean, hundreds of them for every pregnant. How many pregnant women are there right now? Correction. How many pregnant ladies are there right now? I mean, there must be, God knows, right? Billions, I would think. So take that times a couple hundred, and you get a sense of the enormity. And then this planet is not the only planet that this is happening on, right? There is a certain condition called human-like. In another solar system somewhere else, you won't necessarily, you might be similar because you'll have 5 appendages, but you won't necessarily look like this. This shell is what fits the ecology of this environment, okay? But you would still be human. Do you understand the difference? Because human is a process, not a thing. Yeah. So multiply that by the trillions of Earth-like planets that support human life. Staggering. Now, someone just asked the question in their head, and I'll ask who it was in a moment, is can you reincarnate on another one of those planets? Anyone think that? I swear someone in this group thought it. No? All right.
No,
Maybe it's
no, it weren't me. In fact, that's a very good question, but it's not me.
Yeah.
But you're asking it now.
I am asking it now, but I
Yeah.
wasn't asking it when.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can. So that was quite a bit, Molly.
Thank you. Yeah, I just had, the other day I was shopping at Trader Joe's and and it was crowded. It was mobbed. It was a day before a storm, and there was this baby, and honestly, I could not believe the radiation.
Yeah.
Like the angelic, like I think the children that are coming in now, there's something really just she was
Do you remember the shift in astrolight that I was talking about? How it displaces the lower for something higher to come in? Kids these days are not like you and I.
no, absolutely.
What's coming into kids these days is just something phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely incredible.
I know, I was blown away. I was blown away by the radiation and this just the absolute pure beauty.
Yeah, they show up as level 3 nowadays. They used to show up as level 4. To us, we register it as level 3. Okay, every baby comes in as level 4 because it's a structure. Yes, the astrolight is a structure, not, but something moves through it. The occult is what moves through the astrolight. Okay, and because of this influx that we've been talking about, everything that was 6 and 7 are purging out the bottom. Something new is coming in from the top. But because we weren't born in that, or most of us were born right around the beginning of this current cycle of it, of when this happened. But some of us are older. But because we weren't born in that, we register it as something different. Yeah. Kids these days, as they grow up, will register it as level 4 if they have the ability to do so. Yes, if they've learned the ability to do that. Right? But we don't. We look at it and go, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at how kids interact with computers, for crying out loud, and iPads, and how they can just go and pick up a new piece of technology and get it.
Yeah.
Right? The reason why is because they can connect to that information in the astral light because they are more sensitive, right? And 500 years ago, if you put an iPad in, someone 500 years ago, they'd be stumped for the rest of their life. They'd never figure it out. It's way outside of their ability to even learn how to do. Yeah. We think these gunfighters, right, of the Old West, how fast they were. Yeah. Probably not. It'd probably take any one of you, if you have no weapons training whatsoever, yeah, and whisk you back to the Old West, and you'd be the fastest gun on the planet at the time. I presume they're kind of, you know, like that, and that was quick. You see, may or may not be true. I'm drawing an analogy. Okay, if you understand that.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Who else wants to poke at me? We won't probably go on for 2 hours, okay? I've just allotted the time in case we get into something that demands it.
I've got a question. Where you pick your parents before you're born, and you know what your life is going to be like, but you don't know it. Because it was something that someone had said that because they hadn't had it was his mum wasn't very nice as he was growing up.
Yeah.
So how is it if you pick your parents before you're born?
How does that happen?
Yeah, it's just how you pick. I'd imagine you pick nice parents or parents that you're going to enable you to do what you're supposed to do here. But how is it that later on in life something horrible happens? I'm a bit confused.
So get in touch with your actual spirit to the best of your ability at the moment, okay? And you will not look at life the way you do now. First of all, when you're watching the movie of what a life will encounter, you know, you have like an array of things to choose from in there. You don't have the same kind of judgments of like, oh, that's horrible. You always come from the standpoint of, is that going to be useful or not? Only. That's it. Okay. Doesn't deal in right and wrong. Now, the way that happens is, for example, let's say that someone is born into an abusive family. Now, I'll tell you what happens with children who are abused. They learn to read people very, very, very well. Okay. The reason why is because they need to read whether or not that person is going to trigger and become volatile, right? And so they get this amazing ability of detection of what people are like in just seconds, right? You can even walk by somebody if you have this, and you'll know what they're like. Yeah. It's a safety thing. Now you think, oh, that poor child, how horrible for it, right? But maybe that's something that will help them in a future incarnation. You see, you can't do what I'm doing here without having a bit of that detection about you, right? If something like this is in your journey sometime, this life or the next, you'll need that. And there's basically one way to get it. Yeah, because we don't spend our entire life detecting people. We should, but we don't. You see? So that's how it happens. It's a menu. Yeah. Now, there is an aspect of fate that I should talk about. You know, you ask about like, okay, so what about babies that die, right? They're born, they get in a car accident or whatever the case is. Yeah. Things like that. Again, we live in a bigger universe, and Star Sapphire tries her best to keep chaos out as much as she can, but there is also Star Ruby, and we're more of a Star Ruby universe than a Star Sapphire one. Okay, and so this does create chaos, and we know this is fate. Things just happen sometimes. We do live in a universe like that. Okay, and there is the occasional occurrence, and I do say occasional, meaning like it very, very, very rarely happens, where a spirit will pick a life thinking that it can learn something from that one, and then realize at the end that it's not possible ever to learn what it needs to from that. That's a different kind of reincarnation. because then it has to go into a different environment, a different ecology for it to be able to get that bit of info, you see. Now, what happens in those kinds of cases, generally, this is where you get the kids that are like swear, they're 5 years old or whatever, and they swear that they were a pilot in the, Air Force in World War, whatever. Yeah. And they can talk about the names of the people, or they can talk about, where their last life ended. Yeah. And people that they knew, those sorts of things. If you carry that memory over into a life, that's probably what happened. You see, and there's no sense in repeating that life, right? Over and over and over again. Yeah. If you die in a dogfight in a war before you get a chance to learn that thing that could have happened later, there's no point in repeating it, is there? It's almost always a traumatic thing, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids don't come back and go, yeah, I just had the most brilliant, peaceful life ever. Right? It was great. It was always like, I remember dying there, right? Their parents drive them by somewhere. Yeah. Where they have this fascination with model airplanes and can tell you stories that sound like actual war stories. That's how that happens. So much to learn, isn't there? So much to know, so much to be able to kind of bring in. It all starts to add up and make sense after a bit. Let's go for 5 or 10 more minutes. All right. A lot has been done today. Oh, my hair's a mess. Look at that. We're all human, aren't we? Right? We can be. We're allowed to be. At least I have. Can't say much for everyone. Not picking on you, Jeffrey, by the way.
I've got something to bring and
Huh?
I've got something to just kind of bring up that
Yeah, please.
I don't know if it's relevant, but if it is, Pierce, you just say, hey, Sachin, this is not relevant, and go away. That's fine. So remember a few weeks ago I had said I'm going to introduce my cousin to this work.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, nah, I'm going to do my material thing. I'm just going to do what I want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
I said, fine. I'm not going to. That's your life. Do what you want. And he got into an accident yesterday. And nothing happened. He's not hurt. It's fine. 4-car collision. He was the first car that got hit, crunched from both sides.
Yeah.
And he come, I go pick him up and everything is great. He's at my house hanging out with me, eating mom's food and all that. We're having fun. But after everything at night, he says, Sachin, yesterday I dreamed that I was with my dad driving a car and I was out of control and I had an accident. And so this is somebody who's explicitly said, nah, this is not my thing. Yeah. And I'm going to pause because he's sitting right in front of me and, smirking. Blah, blah. He's like, just, serendipity or whatever you want to call it. It's like, if it's coming at you, if this work is coming at you, it's coming at you. Maybe it's not your time yet, but eventually it will be. Can't really avoid it. That's how.
Well, yes, eventually it will be for everybody. That is very true. Not necessarily this work, but to find a way. That there are many, many, many people out there that just don't have a way, right? They have never been exposed to it. They would be blind to it if they watched all of the videos that we've ever done together. Zero interest, okay? Because it's not what they're there for. They're very much, and by the way, this is not a judgment thing. Just to say someone's at granite is not like, ooh, you're granite. It's not like that. We're all granite right now, aren't we? Me too, me included, okay? But yeah, there's this old saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And it also works the other way around. Yeah, okay? And it's a signal that gets put out. You start to get in a certain place in your life where you generate a signal and all of a sudden it just starts attracting, right? You start attracting this sort of thing into your life. It happens. It comes. Now, my intuition about the exact case that you just presented is that it's probably more along the lines of connecting to the bank of force in the astral light to do with people getting in car accidents and not necessarily a prior life. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if it, like, I preface this. I'm not sure if this makes sense with where we are. I just
It's my own clairvoyance
relate
about it.
something.
Okay, doesn't matter one way or another. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
this is somebody who effectively said not interested.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. Hey, what had happened? And we were just sitting here. He's in shock and kind of recovered. And out of his own choice, like, I didn't say anything at all about this work and all of that. And he's like, Sachin, you know what? Yesterday I dreamed this. Yesterday night, literally the night before, he dreamt it. He wakes up in the morning, is on to his work way. He's on his way to work, doing everything safely. Boom, out of the nowhere. Like, okay, we'll see what happens next. That's sort of how I see it.
Definitely. Let me make sure that we understand something here too. Like, every one of us has a spirit and soul attendant, okay, in this body, right? And the spirit, we've talked about the soul a little bit before, but the spirit is really a divine piece of you. Can't get higher than that. You just need to have enough chemical reactions take place, like we talked about last time, to where it solidifies, and then you can make that return journey and dump off your cargo. Yeah. But having said that every person on the planet has a soul and a spirit and a body, of course, then every person is just as divine as you are, right? There's no room, not that any of you do, but there's no room whatsoever in a real work of getting a big head about it. There just isn't, right? None of you have this. I know this, but some do. They join some occult, creepy order, right? And put on the black robes and, chant weird thing, all this stuff. Going back. And they get a big head about it. Yeah. And they tend not to look out and go, that person's just like me. And especially when you get into like something like the first cycle of Star Ruby, where you're encouraged to look at everyone that you encounter with just such deep love, right? Because they are you and they are a bit of God. Good catch.
Yeah, if I was to say anything, I have been, and I'm most likely to go into that, head full state. I think I'm in that head full state pretty frequently. Like, I'm the know-it-all. I think I know it all. Like, no. And then I get slapped in my face and like, look at what you did, you idiot. And then I find out, oh crap, I don't know it all. I'm starting to get to that point where I just go into it and saying, I guess I don't know it all. Maybe I know some, and here's an interesting topic, and dig a little bit more.
Maybe that's your lesson, though. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, too. You can never tell what another person's lesson is. Just can't. You could guess, but really you'll never know. You'll never know for sure. No matter how good your detection is, you'll never know for sure. But anyway, in this particular kind of work, I really like it because it makes it a journey. If you even never really had a journey, or if it did, it was like kind of you step a little bit over here and then you go over here and then you do this and that and the other thing. It was very true, right? Mm-hmm. It was a map. That's what Leo gave us. Wasn't the road, wasn't the journey, it was the map of all the different places you could go. Now, if you set out to go to, come visit me in Colorado, you're going to have to follow a certain path to get there. And that's what this is. But we ring the doorbell here. We set our intention here. That's very important. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's a bit of a shortcut too, actually. And then we start down here and start moving our way up. Okay. Now, we did talk about the esoteric versus the occult versus the mystic. And I just want to touch on that as the final closure to something today. Okay. For someone who is esoteric, they go from granite to quartz, because you need an astral body no matter what. And then they go all the way to topaz. and then they go all the way to diamond. That's what I mean by it's a shortcut. Okay, you don't go here. Now, for someone who is a cult, it looks like this. They again start here. You cannot avoid it. You have to get to here, right? In the quartz, which is to do with the astral realms of things. And then maybe you go to opal, or maybe you go to topaz, and then maybe from topaz you come back to emerald, and then from emerald you go to amber, and then from there you go to star ruby, and then back to quartz. And then you see, that's the occultist. They need to know everything. They need to get it all. Okay, they need to touch every possible way to get from one gem station to another. Now the mystic does something different. They, through whatever work they've done in some life, have to start here, but they do it in a bounce. They go, okay, that's what a mystic does. Those of you that walked backwards, that's probably what's in your future. This is why I said, Molly, maybe one of these incarnations you'll be a teacher. You'll be out here doing this, because that's the nature of it. Start here and you walk backwards down the line just to go back up again. Okay, and generally, the reason for walking backwards down the ray of creation or the gem rod is because you need to get a little bit of each of these so that you can bring it to other people in granite and then unburden yourself and go back. Okay. There's a bit on all three. So I think in closing, I will say, take some time to think about which one you are. Yeah, it's really important to know, isn't it? Which one am I? Yeah. Okay, good afternoon and good evening to each of you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you.